Welcome to Real Truth Real Quick. My name is Rick Smith. I'm here with my friend Todd Wagner.
Hey, what's up, Rick?
Hey guys, fantastic to be here. And I gotta say, loving the name. Real Truth Real Quick is so absolutely in its perfect dumbness that really, I think we are going to have a great time today. Anyway, what are we talking about? Something real smart, real fast, I hope.
All right. Well, I got another good question for you today. And we got 5 minutes, so here we go.
Oh, in 5 minutes. So this is obviously going to be a deep dive into an extremely scientific question answered by someone who knows about 5 minutes of rote quips about it that don't actually mean or explain anything, because that is always how this shit goes. Grand.
What is the biblical view on dinosaurs?
Fantastic. This will be excellent, I'm sure. Because if it's not the Bible doesn't mention dinosaurs for some reason that I can't explain, then it's definitely going to be something extremely stupid, probably convoluted, and almost certainly less coherent than a monkey's thesis on the political influence of market forces on the index gains capital tax allowance. And that was just a shit smear on a sports section of the Financial Times, so good job, I guess.
Well,
Are they in the Bible?
yeah, listen, let's go back. This is really interesting because...
Well, he already said yeah, so I'm right. This is going to be dumb. And I think it will be interesting in a, wow, do people really believe this asinine bullshit? Or how the does this man get out of bed on a morning without accidentally tying himself up in Christmas lights and getting caught behind a bookcase? It's remarkable, really.
Dinosaurs, what are they? We didn't even know they were around till 1841.
Well, that's weird, because you just offhandedly said that they are in the Bible, so how come they weren't found way sooner? I mean, the Big God book had them in, and yet no one found the chapter about the big scary lizard boys going around and eating random people, which brings a whole new meaning to the feeding of the 5,000, because it's missing the rest of its name. It's the feeding of the 5,000 to a very hungry dinosaur. A truer example of a genuine miracle I think you will not find. Ah, dead wounds. Ah, dead humans.
When I think Sir Alfred Owen coined the name Dinosaurs from the Greek, which means terrible lizard.
He was like, these lizards are terrible. I want a better lizard. One that breathes lasers, has a drill tail and is 390 feet tall and has rocket boosters. Something that could take down a gigantic monkey, perhaps. And that's when Sir Alfred built his own Mechagodzilla. But they don't write that in the history books because they don't want you to know the truth.
That's all it is. It's just a big lizard. That's what a dinosaur is.
Yeah, it's just a big lizard. Nothing remarkable about them. I don't even know why anybody cares. It's not like they were so bizarre and out of the human experience. The people who found their bones literally made stories about them as fantastical monsters with magical powers or anything like that. Just a big lizard. Who gives a really? Certainly not highly educated and credited paleontologists. No.
And my Bible says that God created all animals on the fifth day?
See, that's weird, because my Bible says, here mate, you know that God thing? He ain't real, bruv. It was just a fun idea for a supervillain that got way out of hand. And people took him completely the wrong way for some reason. Please, please, please stop praying to him. It was just a joke. And it takes away from the real God, Sir Sick. And all he wants you to do is give him whiskey and belly rubs. And in return, he won't kill all the humans. Yet. I think it's pretty fair. Okay, thanks, bye.
And so there we go. I think the Bible does talk about the fact that there were creatures that existed.
The Bible does talk about creatures that existed, but it doesn't talk about all the creatures that existed. And you cannot extrapolate that just because it talks about some, it must be talking about all of them. In fact, fun little tidbit, for some reason, the Bible only really mentions a handful of creatures that live nearby to certain areas. You know, aside from the ones it obviously invented/stole from other myths. Almost like it was written by people who lived in a limited area and had no experience or stories from much further afield. Like how none of the more exotic creatures from somewhere like Australia seem to pop up, even though God totally made them and would have no reason not to talk about them/show them off. Weird that.
Most dinosaurs, most of these things were not that big. The ones that were big are the ones that get all the attention.
Not really. People like all the dinosaurs, pretty much. I mean, the big ones are the most easy to show off and have a wow factor, but no, not just the big ones. And also, I think he's trying to allude to the big ones being some kind of outlier, as if they were like a mutant version of one of the more reasonably sized ones or something. And if he is doing that, yeah, no, the big ones would have been roughly the same size all over. That's what a species is.
What a lot of people don't know, Rick, is that
Apparently, what a lot of people don't know, you don't know either, which tracks. But I assume what they don't know is that something, something, something dinosaurs, something, something, something God. And I think that's an opinion that we can all agree is dumb.
we don't find very much of the remains of these animals.
I mean, fossils are relatively rare in regards to how many of the animals would have existed, but there are fucking loads of fossilized dinosaurs in general, and we have a huge amount of them all over the world in all sorts of places.
In fact, I would say, I think I remember reading that as much as maybe 20% was the most we ever found of one of these skeletal structures.
No, in fact, the first thing that comes to mind is Sue the T-Rex, aka Specimen FMNHPR 2081, which is a far catchier name if you ask me. And that thing is like 90% complete, so no, that's wrong. And well, there's a number of things that could have happened here. Maybe you read something so catastrophically out of date it just didn't have accurate information. Maybe you read something that just wasn't true and lied about that fact. Or maybe you didn't read anything and pulled that number out of your asshole. That last one seems most likely because I don't believe for a second that he can read.
You find a leg bone, you find a few fragments of hip bone and then some vertebrae, and we all of a sudden construct this massive animal.
That is what we call a fucking lie. Do you really think that's how it works? Because it fucking doesn't. Like the scientists who actually work to study and understand the things they believe, dinosaur reconstruction is an extremely complicated procedure that isn't just some kind of guessing game. And that's not to mention, yeah, maybe they might have a leg and a hip from one member of the species, but they also have multiple other specimens from the same species with more or less of the parts that they can compare and contrast to build up a greater understanding of how X critter would have gone together. And if you really do think it's how you said, then, well, you might be kind of dumb.
And we put big sharp teeth in it, and all of a sudden, because of big sharp teeth, we think they were carnivores.
Holy shit, not only is that nonsense, but that is you actively trying to poison the well on the field of paleontology, asserting that they are just making things up and sticking carnivore-type teeth into them for no reason and then going, oh wow, this thing I just randomly chose to do proves that dinosaurs am XYZ thing. That's not how any of this works, you fucking clown.
Which, if you go back and read Genesis 1, in fact, we did a Real Truth Real Quick on are we all supposed to be vegetarians based on Genesis chapter 1.
Well, that sounds freaking awful. So no thanks. Reading the Bible is something I only do when I really need to kill a few brain cells and for some reason don't have immediate access to a shit ton of booze.
And we talk about dinosaurs briefly there, and I don't think those dinosaurs were carnivores.
At least you said one true thing. No, not about the dinosaurs. That he doesn't think, because a thinking person wouldn't say any of this shit with a straight face. I can only assume that instead of thoughts in his head, he has beans. Not many, mind. That might make him actually able to do the things instead of whatever this is supposed to be.
Okay, now, that gets to the question, what happened to dinosaurs?
Isn't it obvious? God was sitting there one day just chilling out when suddenly he jumped up and shouted, shit, I forgot to put dinosaurs in the Bible! And so he quickly covered his tracks using his God magic to bury all the dinosaurs on the planet deep underground, while they were still alive, because he thought it was funnier that way. And because humans are so stupid and worthless, he knew they would all forget they existed until they dug one up again. It's rather brilliant if you think about it. For less than a femtoseconds, otherwise you will realise that it's just fucking idiotic. So on brand for God at least.
And by the way, were dinosaurs on the ark?
I think so.
Well, you think so. That's all the evidence that I need for both the incredibly illogical story of Noah's Ark to be true, and that this thing that makes that story make even less sense must have happened. Who needs proof and evidence and rational thinking when you can just think it happened despite having none of that? Not these guys. They are way too cool to brains.
I think they were two every animal. Yeah. That would certainly seem to be every part of every animal.
I love it because they base their entire worldview on an assumption. Well, lots of assumptions, but the overarching one is that the Bible isn't a load of horse gubbins. I wonder what they would be saying if they, instead of just taking every word as fact, if there would be any way to justify any of this. If not to other people, to themselves at least. I doubt it.
If they existed and God told every animal to be there, you would say yes.
Otherwise, we got some serious other problems.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Like, oh shit, this book is actually just a bunch of made up bullshit stories, and maybe I shouldn't base my entire worldview on a fucking fairy tale written by ignorant assholes. Although I can see why you might do that. You can relate to them so very well, obviously.
And so, listen, I'm not a genius, but if I was told, to put certain kind of animals on the ark.
You're not a genius? But I put you on my list for big brain genius smart guys. Damn it, now I gotta start again. Anyway, if you were told to put animals on the ark, if you were smart, what you would say is, that. Any ark big enough to house 2 of every type of animal on the fucking planet would take forever to build. Would probably be completely unable to sustain its structural integrity from shearing force alone. And even if it could, it would take such an impossibly long time to gather up all the animals that you would be dead twice over from the energy use alone. No thanks, God. I'ma have a nap instead.
Whether it be an elephant, okay, or a dinosaur, I wouldn't put a fully mature adult on there.
Of course, because you would want the animals that are at your intellectual level, right? Well, that's not fair. Even the most unmatured non-adult animals are probably way above this guy's level. Perhaps he should consider filling the ship with hollow bowling balls filled with old chewing gum and rancid cabbage. Something you would really be able to have a meaningful conversation with, you know?
Okay, and if God brought the animals to the ark, I'm not sure he sent the largest, what we would know today as African elephant in the world. And I would bring a small elephant.
Oh, well, I guess that fixes all the plot holes forever. I mean, now you can ignore all the problems with inbreeding, although I'm sure you don't see it as a problem for some reason. And it, of course, completely fixes the issue with the ark having a size as written in the Bible that wouldn't even come close to holding everything. I mean, the insects alone would pose an enormous problems, except now they don't, because you bought a small elephant. Smart.
I'm not a genius.
I'd bring a baby.
Okay? I'd bring a baby dinosaur.
You're an evil, not a genius, it seems, because you would be bringing a dead baby dinosaur, you sick fuck. Damn, and I was just starting to like you. Well, tolerate you. Well, if I was in the same building as you, I wouldn't burn it down to get away from you. Well, not right away.
So what's really interesting, I'll tell you though, where they go.
This is an interesting point of discussion because it really is the baby elephant in the room that needs answering. If they were all around in Bible times, why the are they suddenly, not counting ancestors, all seem to suddenly die off at the same time? Just before anyone had a chance to see them and write down how this really big dino guy was walking around like it owned the place. Mostly because it literally would have. Forever odd that didn't happen, yeah?
Okay, well, after the flood, a lot changed about the earth, including as the water began to recede. Initially, there wasn't much land.
Okay, but they were on a boat. Wasn't the point to, save 2 of each animal so they could repopulate the earth? There not being much land should really not be a problem for a god who was both all-powerful and, smart enough to plan this out properly, yeah? Or are you going to undermine the whole thing by saying something really, really silly?
Okay, I think you could say, I don't know what percentage. At first, it was just mountain peaks that were around. So a lot of the world was covered still in water. Limited food supply, destruction of a lot of habitat.
It's starting to sound like God really didn't think this through. I mean, seriously, again, this was about wiping out almost everything, but not having all the animals actually go extinct. And then leaving them with nothing, nowhere to live, nothing to eat, just an empty, if damp, wasteland? That seems like a really bad idea.
And then also in Genesis 9:3, we see that God says, now you can start to eat meat.
That is not how carnivorous versus herbivorous animals work, you fucking doof. Forgetting omnivores for a moment, many animals are obligate carnivores. That means that they need meat in order to survive and be healthy. So how the did they do that before God allowed them to? Shit, I'm starting to think that the Bible might not be the complete scientific document that some folks claim it to be. SHONK.
And so I imagine that if you're looking for a food supply, you kill the largest food supply that you can kill. And who knows if you wouldn't kill some for fun.
So humans caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs God wanted them to save. Brilliant. And no one, not one person wrote down what they saw or felt the need to draw pictures of these giant critters. Nothing of the sort happened. They were all very hush-hush about it. Probably because they felt bad and wanted to keep God in the dark. Because apparently that is so easy to do. Just ask Adam and Eve. all-powerful my ass.
Okay, right? I'd shoot the biggest one. Let's just say a lot of dinosaurs did survive and didn't get extinct because of a lack of food supply or loss of habitat. But it does make sense that the largest animals that need the most food would die first.
Well, that just sounds like a threat. You motherfuckers aren't taking me down. Not if I eat you all first, you bastards.
It also makes sense that if they're going to be hunters, they're going to kill the biggest animals first.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make sense. None of this has, but that's because the Bible isn't true, and the reason it doesn't contain dinosaurs is because nobody knew about them, end of story. Stop pretending it's any other way.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the